We are going to start. Before I say anything, check, mic check. Let me know if you can hear me or if my mouth is moving but there's no sound. You let me know right away. I'm gonna be looking for this. It's Flotrix, welcome. I am Ken. Hold on, gotta adjust my chair. Every Sunday we do a live stream at 5 p.m. CST. Waiting to make sure that you guys can hear me today. Can you hear me? Someone from YouTube, please leave a comment. Let me know. Can't hear me? Perfect. All right. Welcome to Flotrix. I think I should just always start with a sound check just to make sure that I'm coming through, because last time I spent 10 minutes talking before I even realized I had this huge chapter that I wanted to read off, be all exciting about, and then I realized the mic was not working at all. It was actually on. It was a technical difficulty where I had to plug it and unplug it back in. Anyways, welcome to Flotrix. This is Ken. This is our live stream. We do it every Friday. Every Friday. Yes, today's Friday. Every Sunday, 5 p.m. CST until otherwise noted. I'm going to assume until COVID calms down and a little bit more and things get back to busy. Actually, though, I really do like coming together and chatting with all you guys every weekend, so that's pretty awesome. I gotta turn down my volume really quick here. So I hope you all are doing well. We're into August. We're over halfway done with this year now. Isn't that insane? I hope everyone's doing well, staying safe. This is a live stream, so again, for all you people just joining, every Sunday you come in, you ask whatever questions you want, mainly about flow arts, ninja stuff, mostly nunchucks, but we also get staff questions or sometimes even poi or other kinds of questions. I'm happy to answer performance-related questions or anything that you need to know to get to the next level. The whole point of the live stream is for me to interact with you guys, so I know I'm benefiting you guys directly, as opposed to me just writing out random videos that I don't know if it will help or not. I did get one question on my Patreon, so we're going to cover anti-spins a little bit more in depth. We're going to cover how to get into an anti-spin and how to feel it out. It does take some time to build. And then whatever questions I see on this page over here, I've got a bunch of questions over here and messages that I'll read off soon. I'll give some shout outs. First though, I always want to thank Dark Monk. Thank you, Dark Monk. They make my training chucks. Boom. They make my training chucks as well as most of my fire props. And then also want to thank Flow Toys for they make most of my LED gear, and they've been sponsors of the channel for a long time. I don't know why, but when I lifted these chucks, a bunch of hair flew in the air. It looks like cat dander, but I don't have a cat. I don't know what that means. Anyways, before we begin too, I always like to start off with a little bit of just thinking or philosophy. I just think that that's a nice way to add into this and tie it into flow, but also just talk about life, because I feel like flow and life have a lot in common. Even if you're not a performer, I feel like flow can definitely be a frame of mind and a frame of reference that you can use for your life. So today I was just thinking about that saying, it takes a village, when they're talking about raising a kid, how it can take a whole village to just raise this one person. And I think also with flow arts as well, just about any art, it can be the same thing. One person could have lots of influences. A lot of people could have influenced this one person to create this new thing. And this new thing becomes part of the chapter of another person that has a lot of influences, including this one person that had that new thing. And essentially, that kind of just creates evolution in art. It can go both ways, though, but just kind of keep in mind that what you contribute is also what you're able to share. Again, no one ever remembers what you keep, which is one of the big reasons why I'm so open to wanting to share people, because I kind of want to leave a legacy. I want to leave behind I want to pay like my dues and leave that as a, so that way other people can do the same, and we just keep passing it forward and evolving this art. Because in my opinion, especially nowadays, we need it more than ever. We need a way to express our feelings so we can get back to clarity. So that said, that was all I really wanted to cover, but I also just wanted to say, especially because things are a little crazy out there, just on a side note, it's good to check in with your friends, especially if you think they're doing good. It's still good to check in with them, just because we are in some crazy times, and the fact that some people are isolating and some aren't, and there's a lot of critical finger pointing and a lot of craziness happening in this world, it's really good to check in with all your friends, make sure they're good, because you never know when someone is just trying to be strong. So reach out to them, make sure they're good, you know, and make sure you're good too. Take care of yourself. All right, that said, I am going to start giving out some shout outs, and then we're going to cover we're going to start by covering the anti-spin, and then I'll answer whatever questions after that. All right. So first message is from Laura Kautam, and it was 5 a.m. in India when he wrote this, and this was an hour ago. That's amazing. Please tell me, by the way, welcome. Please tell me some easy and amazing combos to do in front of a camera. Only nunchuck combos, please. Lots of love from India. Thank you. So let's talk about performing in front of a camera really quick. There's a lot of different combos. I'm gonna use these chucks for now. We are going into Oaks just for this one, just because it was lying in front of me. What I wanted to talk about was the idea that you want to start thinking about different moves, and I've covered this before, but I really hope you think about this. You want to cover different moves by how close or how far away you are from the camera. So if I'm back here, little smaller moves that don't include body movement will be a lot less. So when I'm up close though, if I hold my fingers or my hand in front of the camera, this is where I can start doing these intricate moves, but I want to be close, right? So when you're performing in front of a camera, all your small movements should be up closer so they can see it, so they can see your finger positioning. Like if you're doing a wheel, they can see your fingers and where it's at in space, and that will be helpful, as opposed to back here. Now this gives a different effect as opposed to getting up closer. This just puts focus on the fingers, as you can see. So when you think about a camera, one thing to think about is the actual idea that you want to put a focus towards something. So start thinking like a photographer or a painter in that way. This has less to do with techniques, but this has more to do with what kinds of moves you decide to do. For instance, if I do a throw over here, a high throw, it will be less, it just flies off the screen, obviously. You won't even be able to see it. If I stand back here, I can throw bigger throws and people will be able to see it. Except I think my lighting's a little bit off here. It looks a little dark. Let's see if I can make it a little bit brighter. So the goal, when you're farther back, is more body movement. More body movement. Wow. You know? And then as we get closer to about this size, so I usually have about 3 different spacings. I have far away, which is anything farther than this is going to be more body movements. When I throw my aerials, I throw big ones, you know? Whoosh, catch. And then when I get to about this kind of spacing, which is probably more like a few feet from the camera or so, maybe like 5 or 6 feet. Then I get into the standard, typical stuff. Now, when I'm this close, I don't have to put in as much body movement. So, because what I'm trying to say is my footwork, because it's easy to step off where you can't even see me. So, when I'm going to focus here, like I can get my anti-spins, I can get everything that is basically, I can cover the whole distance simply by standing in the center. But when I get to here, then I'm going to start focusing on little intricacies. I'm going to try to keep it really tight in the center. I'm not going to focus on footwork. I'm going to focus on keeping a very fine point into whatever I'm doing, so you can just kind of visualize and see what is happening. And this way you can see a lot more up close, but it's going to give a different kind of feel again. So when we're talking about nunchuck performances, the topic that I'm really trying to talk about with this one is the sagittal plane, or this movement front to back. The sagittal is just moving forward to backwards. So as I get back here, you see more, so I have to do bigger movements. But as I get closer, it's going to feel a little bit more up close and personal, a little more intimate. So you have to make everything a lot more subtle. Even my hand moving right now is going to have more of an impact just because I'm closer. You gotta, if you start thinking about this type of thing when you're doing nunchucks, you'll start realizing that there is a spacing with all the moves that you do, and there's like an optimal spacing with it. So, in me, I break it down into 3 different distances, but you can break it down however you like. But start thinking about the distance that you play with the camera. One more thing, let me just make sure here. So you want to do some amazing combos. I know that that was more of a camera performance, but making amazing combos in front of a camera. First, optimize your distance, like we talked about, right? And then really making good combos, I mean, good combos, in my opinion, are just things you can flourish well. So, let me grab this chuck actually. So if we want to make, the first thing to start thinking about is don't think if your combo is good or not until you're finally finished with it. Because say we do this combo here, right? This is just a rotor pass combo, maybe with a front throw. So here to here, right? That can look good, you know, we can get it to look good, but it's also going to depend on how you display it. For instance, if I throw it up a little higher, it may look a little bit different because here there's like very little energy, my body's not doing much, but I might just even do like a bigger throw to start with, or even maybe like a turning throw and a catch. If you can catch it, I need to throw a little higher, but I'm afraid I'm going to hit my ceiling. Let me try this again. Whoosh. Right? Or something different. But then all of a sudden this throw becomes a little more theatrical, and in terms of good combos, I think that's what you want. So, and this is going to be more like pacing more than just doing individual techniques. Again, we're back to performance. Because I have lots of combos that I can show you, but it's going to be how you present it that's going to make all the difference. So here, again, if we just do this, that's one thing, but we might throw it up high and drop it really good. Yes, I'm having one of those days. Whoosh, you know, whoosh. Just the way that we stop, and go, you know, that's going to be how you can sell those combos. Stop, stop. I mean, that's a simple combo, it's just this. But then if you just add a little emphasis to it, we add a little bit more spacing. So instead of here, this is a combo that goes number 3 bounce, lift it up, redirect, and back out, right? But if we just like move the hand out, that's something. This adds it. This adds a little more spice to the combo, right? And then maybe we'll pull back here, you know, so we'll pull back and step forward. So, you know? And again, the technique's the same, but now we have a little bit extra. So when you're doing your combos or when you're doing something, think about how you can add a little bit more body work that will also make your combos look good. And also another thing you can do is psych yourself out. Like maybe I do this combo and I like it, but I do this combo a lot and I feel like people will know that I'm going to do it. So maybe I'll deliberately miss and then try to figure out what I can do from there. So what if I did this, but instead of catch it, because I do that a lot, maybe I'll do something different, like swing it across my arm and not catch it. What can I do from there? So this is now, we're in the play state, but this will allow us to come up with new creative ideas. Something like that, I don't know. I'm not really going to teach that, I'm just showing you. I could go here, you know, or I could go into like some sort of weavy motion. So what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to give you a new combo at this particular moment. I've got so many combos already on my YouTube channel. But if you take what you already know and you modify it, you add more presentation, or you miss the move, or you go to like a move that you usually do, but then change one technique so it like changes everything from there on out, not only will you have a combo variation, but you'll be able to fake the audience out or whoever's watching it, because you can do the one combo, get them used to it, and then change it up with your new combo. So I think that should be a good start, at least, to help you out. I always like to go the performance route, because whenever someone's saying, hey, I want to perform in front of people, or I want to perform in front of the camera, most cases, they're always thinking techniques when it's actually the opposite. You probably have plenty of techniques that you can do. It's probably more presentation and timing and musicality and things like that. All right, I want to say hello to Rita. He's from Hungary, Budapest. That's awesome. And then also saying hello to Samir. It's 2 a.m. in Pakistan. This is awesome. We've got Pakistan, Budapest, India, all over the world. I wish I could visit you all. That is so amazing. Roshan says, hello, Ken, from India. You saw and commented on my videos on Instagram. Thank you for your amazing tutorials and being my inspiration, my legendary sensei. Thank you. No, I really appreciate that. That's amazing. I'm really glad to be of help to anyone, really. I think it's great. I have a request. Please upload a video tutorial on how to use tonfa, or tonfa. Some people call them tonfa. I call them tonfa. I actually don't know a whole lot of tonfa. Unfortunately, I've played around with it, but only very little. It's one of the ones, just like Psy. I haven't worked with Psy very much either. It's something I could probably eventually work on. I just haven't used it that much, unfortunately. Mr. Zeps says, salute guys, and thanks Ken Hill, you're a master. Oh, thank you. Could you please give some advice for better performance with fire chucks at an intermediate level? Yeah, sure. So intermediate level fire chucks, I'm assuming that means you're past the figure 8 wrist rolls. You're probably past the figure 8 wrist rolls. I think the hard part is when we're talking about intermediate chucks, I don't know exactly where you are in your chuck journey or what you can do with your chucks. But when we're talking about intermediate, you should probably have a basic understanding of how fire chucks work. Unfortunately, my fire chucks are all in my car right now because I just did a fire spin. Give me a second. Actually, they might not be. Give me one moment. All right. So a couple things I want to talk about. I'm assuming you can do your figure 8 wrist rolls and you can do them well and you can get them in when you're doing fire chucks. You may be able to get some rips. I'm not sure exactly where you are in your journey, but there are a couple things that you can practice just before I ever teach anything with fire dancing online. I always have to give this disclaimer. If you don't know how to do fire, do not start online. You find a fire troop in your area, ask them to safety you and to teach you fire safety. Before you learn fire nunchucks, always learn fire safety so no one gets hurt. That's the last thing I want is anyone to ever, like, I love, fire chucks is one of my favorite things. I just want to make sure we all do it responsibly. So there's a Home of Poi, has their own, if you Google search Home of Poi, P-O-I, fire safety, they have a whole section on how to be safe with fire. But the best thing to do is to contact local fire performers in your area that are professionals so they understand the highs and the lows of it and have them safety you and teach you how to do fire dancing so you wear the right clothes and everything's right. With that said, I'm going to assume that you have all that and you have these chucks and you're wondering what you can do. Well, first, like I said, it depends on where you are with your chucks in this matter. I'm going to give you some tips that you can do with fire chucks that I think are really fun. First is going to be if you are outside in the concrete, you can have your fire chucks, instead of spinning off your chucks, you can have them where you can dip it in the dip can. You move out to where you're at, and what you'll do is, as soon as you're gonna hold your chucks to the side, you're not gonna hold it up because all the fuel will run into your hand, which is horrible. So you're gonna hold it off to the side like this, and when they light it, as you stand on concrete, this is a concrete move, you can do like this V flick, this flick onto the ground, which will actually cause a ground transfer, allowing you to create a long line of fire across the ground. So if I was standing here like this, I have my chucks and then I soaked them, I move over to my performance area, they light it, I go here, flick, 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 and then I drop my chucks down and you will get, let's see if I can find a video. You've seen videos of me doing this in my fire dancing. I probably won't be able to find it so quickly this time, but that's one technique that you can do. All right. Other kinds of, again, it's kind of hard to talk about advanced combos. What you should have is an understanding of how these chucks work. So the first 30 seconds, you have to be fast with the chucks because the fire is so high, you burn your hand. So you're probably doing figure 8 wrist rolls, but start seeing, I don't know if you can do the extensions or if you can do turns, but I would explore all of this types of motions. If you can't do these turns, like figure 8 wrist rolls with turns, like here, turn, and to the front, that's going to be the next thing that I would suggest working on. So just instead of figure 8 wrist rolls, see if you can extend your arm to the front, make big circles, and then learn how to turn with it. Those are huge. Another thing to have is a couple of really big throws. So really big throws. And the ability to catch, because catching a flaming nunchuck is a lot harder than a regular chuck because the only thing you see is the thing you can't catch. So work on big throws, work on turns, work on extensions, and then have really cool ways to light your chuck. Another thing you can do is like just light one side of the chuck, for instance, and see, and then you can just kind of cross the chucks over to light the other side. So if this side's lit and this side's not, you can go whoosh to transfer it over, and then come into just a really nice start. There's so many options you can do. So many options you can do with fire chucks, but those are a few fire exclusive techniques. that I think work well and look good. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. If you have a video of where you are with your fire chucks, that would help me a lot more to be able to see where you're coming from. That way I can build on top of what already exists. You can send it, anyone that wants to send me a video, we review it, at the end of every week, or, every Sunday we can review it. Just send me an email at ken.flowtricks, flowtricks @gmail.com. Send me that email. I'll take a look at it and give you my advice as to where you can move from there. All right. Next is Andre Walker. Been following you for years, and I've finally been donating as a member. Oh, thank you, Andre. I really appreciate that. Your tutorials and advice have helped me plenty over the years. I bought a sear wheel. Any tips? Oh, that's awesome. Sear wheel was one of my favorite things to do. For those of you guys that don't know, that's in my intro vid when I'm in that giant wheel and I'm spinning around in it. I love the sear wheel. The only thing is I actually injured my hand from doing too much sear, and it's been about 6 months, and it's still feels like there's a permanent bruise in my palm. I probably got to go see a doctor about. But it happened because I was doing it. I would say it's more of an advanced trick. It's not anything that you would have to worry about for way later, but I was doing like a one-legged upside down trick. So one leg was off the sear wheel while I was going upside down, and it was, I don't know, I think it just put too much pressure on my wrist, did something to it. The only reason why I say that is because there's a couple things to think about. One is whenever, way down the line, when you start inverting and going upside down, you want to, it may help to have someone help you with that, just because I was doing that on my own, and sometimes it's just hard to spot or to know if there's any bad techniques happening. Okay, but let's get to the very beginning. It took me 3 months to really get my first good sear wheel spin to work. So if there's anything that I could take from that, it's just to be patient, but to do it all the time. It's going to be those little things that you do that will add up to be big things later on. Again, here, give me just a second here. I'll show you guys just a common, let's go to the website really quick. So this is what a sear wheel looks like if you don't know. This was me on my little wheel inside. This is actually my apartment. When I first moved into my apartment, the place I'm in right now, you can kind of see. Yep. So that's a sear wheel. It is a great workout. It's very challenging art. I loved it. Like I said, I've got to wait for my hand to heal though from that. If I could recommend anything, the waltz is going to probably be the first move you learn. And the biggest thing that I did wrong with sear was I was pulling and pushing, and it's not a push and pull at all. It'll start that way because you can't feel the motion very good, but eventually what's going to happen is you're going to learn that a lot of it's in your hips and how you lean, and it's going to be very, very subtle and small leans. So your goal would be to learn how to, first you'll probably push and pull and your arms and muscles will get tired, but down the line, if you keep working on that sear wheel, you'll realize it's a very subtle lean and it requires not a lot of effort to do. So start big and then slowly go small. Actually, sear wheel has taught me a lot about nunchucks in that same way, because the way I teach it is the same. Because when I was in sear wheel, when I first started learning it, I was sore every day because I was putting in too much. And once I learned how to dial in, it actually doesn't take a lot of effort to do bigger things. Now, it still takes effort, obviously, but a lot less. And nunchucks are the same. When you're first starting out, you put too much in because you don't have the sensitivity to dial in to that very fine setting where it doesn't take that much. So the goal is to find out how to create the least amount of effort to get the most amount of results. Sear wheel is no different. I will say, like with sear again, it's a very, you got to be tight but relaxed. It's a dichotomy for sure. Good luck. Practice all the time. It's a difficult beginning, but if you get past it, it's fantastic. Once you can learn the waltz, it's like it gets so much more fun. All right, I'm gonna keep going down the line here. Oh, and Andre, again, thank you for being a donor too. Really appreciate that. Especially now, like as you guys can see, I work for donations right now. I used to be a full-time performer, but with COVID, I have nothing. And even if there were gigs, it's really hard for me to want to do them just because of COVID, you know? I don't know, like, it's tough. I'm gonna take this down a little bit. But if you guys like what you see, again, like I always got to push this out here. I have a paypal.me/flowtricks for a one-time donation, and then my Patreon account has like over 100 exclusive videos, as well as we do Zoom classes for some of the donors and all kinds of other additional things. So if you like what you see and you want to support our channel, it's right there, right below. Boom. It's there the whole time, every stream. So, all right. I'm going to go back here and continue with reading here. I think I'm actually want to teach the anti-spin soon, just because I don't want to get, I'm 30 minutes in already and I haven't taught a technique yet. But let me just keep going here. Flow Arts Tutorials. Hey man, hope your days have gone well. Can you give me some tips with LED motions or movements that look super dope? I've only been spinning with LEDs for less than a year. Okay, so let's start with this. I will give some LED tips right after I go over the anti-spin, because I promised that I would do an anti-spin tutorial and on my Patreon to Joseph, and I want to make sure I cover this so I don't forget it, because that will happen. All right, so let's go over the anti-spin and then we'll go over some LEDs and I'll continue on with reading more. The thing about an anti-spin, the trick to an anti-spin that you really want to be able to understand, the way I like to describe it is you're drawing some sort of pattern in the air where your hand is moving one direction, right? So it's moving one direction. As my hand moves one direction, if you look at the chucks, they're going to also move a certain direction. The most natural way is for the chucks to be spinning in the same direction that my arm is moving. But if my hand moves in the opposite direction, then we have something called an anti-spin, which basically means that, well, yeah, your arm is going against the spin of the chucks. So it can be very challenging to understand how an anti-spin works. But basically, if your arm is going clockwise and your chuck is going clockwise, or vice versa, they're both going counterclockwise, you're not doing an anti-spin, you're doing something called an in-spin. However, once we start reversing directions, then what you have is like this spirograph pattern that looks like an anti-spin. Now, a way to get this to work, I usually like to go over the 3-point anti-spin. I feel like that's the easiest. And all you have to do is pick 3 points, okay? We're gonna make 3 points of a triangle. There's a point here, we'll choose a point by the head, and then we'll choose a point by the right side. So left side, head, right side. I'm gonna just spin my chucks. We're gonna go, counterclockwise with the chucks. And then we're gonna spin at this point 3 times. We'll say 3 times, and then what we'll do is the moment the chuck is about the opposite place where my arm would move. So if I'm moving from this point to this point, the chuck would actually be on the opposite side, like this, as I pull upwards. So here, pull up, right? And then it's gonna be the next, now we're on to the second point. And we're gonna do the same thing. We'll give it a couple rotations until the chuck is in the opposite side of where we're going, and we're gonna pull it down to this point. Remember, because we're going from here to here to here to here. So we're making a triangle. So again, here, as soon as it's about the opposite position of where we're needing to go, we pull it up. Once it's about the opposite position, we pull it over to the side. And again, once it's about here, we're gonna pull it this way. Now, it's gonna keep moving, so it's gonna kind of be in this direction. And that's how we get the anti-spin started. Now, this does not look like an anti-spin because we're putting in too many rotations, but what you wanna do is get the feel of pulling the chuck in the opposite direction. So whenever the chuck's in the opposite direction, we pull it, right? Get used to that first. You can even use your other hand to guide the chuck if you want to visualize this. Eventually what you have to do is you have to pull it before one rotation finishes, and that's what gives you this spirograph feel, meaning I don't count any rotations at all and count, see, I'm doing 3 rotations here, I'm doing 3 rotations here. Then you can take it down to 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then eventually you've got to be able to do it without any rotations, but start this way and lower the rotations until you can get to this point. Now at this point, I'm going to demonstrate in slow motion by using my hand. The chuck is spinning in a circle in the lower part of the triangle. The moment it's on the opposite side, I pull it up. As I'm pulling it up, it's still going to be moving, so it'll look like this. And then the moment it's in the opposite side, we pull it this way, and we pull it this way. Do you see how this works? Down, over, and that's kind of the feel of the anti-spin. As soon as it's in the opposite side, we pull down. Opposite of where it needs to go, we pull, pull, and then eventually we'll have this. And you can speed it up once you get the feel for it. In terms of feeling-wise, it will always feel like you're pulling against the chuck. So if it's not feeling right, if you just want to go completely off feelings, it always feels like it's pulling in some weird or odd direction. That's an easy way to tell if you're doing the anti-spin right, because you'll know it, you'll feel it, it sinks in. It's a very distinct feeling. And then eventually you'll be able to do different types of patterns with it, but that would be the best way to start with an anti-spin. Again, you can use your other hand to demonstrate. Just roll it in circles until it gets to the opposite point of where you need to take it, and just roll it this way until you can feel it. Oh, that kind of feels like a nunchuck move in itself, for that matter. All right, now I'm going to answer Anthony's question about LEDs, but I want to make sure, because I see you posted a couple of times, so I want to read below too. Fire and LEDs are cool variations of typical martial arts weapons found, but very different in feel and dynamic. By that I mean the way the chuck moves. What are your thoughts on this, and how do you put these dynamics to use in the eyes of a performer to entertain your crowd or to entertain your crowd? I hope you understand. YouTube limits the amount of letters I can use in a comment. Yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying. Basically what you're saying is regular chucks look different than LED chucks, which look different than fire chucks. And this is very important to know. This is very important to know because your techniques using fire chucks and regular chucks and LED chucks will be different. I'll give you an example. With LEDs, this is an LED staff. With LEDs, certain moves will have more of an appeal without the LEDs. So for instance, as a fire staff, I really like doing this move, but I'm not really fond of it doing with an LED staff. And the reason why I'm fond of this move as a fire staff is because when it's on my shoulder, there's fire right next to my face. Crowds usually love it. But if I do an LED staff this way, it looks all right. It just isn't the same. Usually I'll hold my hands out and I'll try to get the crowd to clap when I do something like this. This is obviously not a chuck, but it's the same concept. But what LEDs are good for is circles. So a lot of my big circular motions work better. High-speed LED circular motions, they work great. Again, I don't have my LED chucks with me, they're downstairs. But you can see that even if I just create basic circles, the thing is because you're doing LEDs, usually you're in the dark, they can't see your intricate techniques. So a lot of the tricks that you do that are very intricate will be lost because we're in the dark. I'll give you an example. Tell me what techniques I'm doing. Basically, you may be able to see my body. You might see my body, but mostly you're just going to see the patterns that I'm creating. So you can kind of see my body, right? You can kind of see the body motions, but it would probably be very hard for you to tell what techniques I was doing there. And that's important to note because when you approach LEDs or even fire chucks, look at yourself like you're a painter and you're using light or fire to paint the air. Because what most people will notice is not your technique, but the patterns that you create with it. So again, start thinking, I'm making circular patterns, I'm making anti-spin patterns, or if you catch it, hold it really long, because what they see, they do see the catch, but what they really see is you stopping all those patterns, and that's what's gonna allow them to clap. So you change your mindset into just thinking of what you're drawing in the air. Start looking at the pictures you're creating more than the techniques that you're doing, especially with LEDs, and you will get the crowd to interact with you a lot more. All right. Okay, we finally got to the point where they said they can hear, so we got to the beginning here, which is awesome. All right, let me see here. I want to say hello to, Ike Flow's here. I want to say hello to Ike Flow and Chris Heslop and Alpha Zero Omega. Hey Ken. Oh, every time someone comments, hold on, I gotta scroll up. Not sure if you saw, but I messaged you on Facebook about what's happening with Patreon. Just want to see if you're considering a second platform in case Patreon goes under. I am really sorry. Let me see here. I didn't see any messages in my Facebook about Patreon, unfortunately. Give me just a second, though. I will say that, yeah, unfortunately, I didn't see a message coming into me, but, there's also another problem, which is I have multiple accounts. So I have a Facebook page that I haven't visited in years, and you may have messaged me from there. I'll take a look at this for sure, but I will talk about the things I like and the things I don't like about Patreon. I love the fact that Patreon exists, but it is getting a little sketch to some degrees. Now I don't know what's going on with it, and I'll try to find your message, Alpha. I just don't know where. It's not It's not in my Ken Hill account, unfortunately, that I can see. Let me just double check one more time. But another problem that I have is that I get so many messages sometimes. I get so many messages coming in from so many different accounts. I've got like 7 email accounts. I've got a Flowtricks page, and I've got a Ken Hill Facebook page, and it may have gotten lost in one of those accounts, so I'll have to take a look. One thing I'm not a big fan on with Patreon, though, is the way that monthly payments work, because it, like, no matter where someone is on the month, it will charge them at the beginning of the next month, which I don't think is it doesn't make any sense why they do that, but I think it's some sort of thing with Patreon. However, I will say that I do have a PayPal subscription too. On the Flowtricks page, there's a way to use PayPal if Patreon's not working. So there's always that option. That option's existed for about a year, but I don't try to broadcast it too much just because my Flowtricks page, I don't want to say I'm trying to bury it, but I just kind of keep it quiet because I worked really hard for 2 years on it, and it didn't quite work the way that I wanted it to. However, I do use it as a backup Patreon page. So everything I post on Patreon is also on that Flowtricks, on flowtricks.net, and there's a way to get all the same access that you do from Patreon. So I have that as a backup. I do want to check out and see what's going on with Patreon, but even if that goes under, and if the Flowtricks page isn't quite good enough and we got to go to another platform, I feel like the platform wouldn't necessarily be as bad. Like, I'm sure we'll be able to find one. I think. All right. Flow Arts, Anthony says, is it possible to any spin buzzsaw with double nunchucks? Of course, yeah. Any spin, I mean, when we're talking about any-spin buzzsaws, we kind of have to change the way that you approach. So what he's asking is if you can do a buzzsaw but any-spin it, right? So here's a buzzsaw. A buzzsaw is essentially one chuck is kind of chasing the other, but you're going to have to kind of hold it in crank position as opposed to keeping it this way, right? I mean, you can try to anti-spin it this way, but it doesn't look right. But what you can do is like this form of an anti-spin. This would be kind of considered an anti-spin buzz-saw fountain, I think, or something to that degree. And it's kind of similar to this. We're still getting the motion, but I have to stand forward with it and have the chucks kind of spinning inside this area in between my arms like this, right? And then it's going to be very similar to like doing an anti-spin with one, like this, except we're going to do it with two. So we have to kind of change the way that our hands are held, as you can see. One's going to the inside. And you just start mapping out 4 different points. Usually what I do is my left hand's in front on this point to this point. I'm making a square, by the way. And then as I move over to here, I change the points that's in front. So you can practice this point here, move it up to this point here. And then as we switch over, do you see how I change the points? Do you see how I take my hand from here to here and down? Here, 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 down. Now, as always, you need to be in that opposite position like we were talking about, but you are chasing yourself now, so only one of them is going to be in the opposite while the other is going to be in the right position. So what I would suggest is the same thing that we're talking about with the other anti-spin, which is just basically feel it out. Take it in steps here, take it in steps, transfer it over, look in the mirror and take it in steps. So I'm always just kind of watching this. For me, I find it's a lot easier just to do it in one motion, and then you can go straight back to your buzzsaw over here. It's always easier for me just to do the whole anti-spin than to hold it, but this will definitely help you to visualize what needs to be done. One more time. When I do it, my right hand's in the front for these 2 points, and then it pulls over to the back for the other 2 points. And then this one's a hard one for me, but I can do it as it just moves on its own, or you can even do a 3-point like this. Both of them work well, but you do have to keep it moving very fast. But it's basically the same concept as an anti-spin with one, except for you're taking, instead of doing this, we're also putting a hand in front to kind of create this double chasing pattern that's happening. So you can do it. It's just a little bit of modification. It's not the same as when you're standing here with your arms, your arms are like parallel like this. You have to adjust the way you hold them in order to get the chucks to move through. So you have to do like a variation of it. You can, again, do like anti-spins like this, but it's really difficult, especially with the length of these chucks. And I feel like it doesn't have as much, it doesn't really get the effect that you can pull off as if you did it in front of your body. Again, to get that move, practice each point one at a time, and then see when you can feel that movement. And once you get that movement, then you got those points secure, and you just got to do it 4 times. Okay, let me just go back up here and go to more questions. That was a good question. I like that one. Sergio, can you do a figure 8, bro? Yeah, sure. I think that's a serious question, so I'm going to go over it. Sometimes, I mean, everyone needs help for every single type of thing. Figure 8s, I'm going to go over the figure 8 with y'all. And here's the thing. I know a lot of you guys know the figure 8, but going back to the basics will also help you refine the advanced stuff. So when we're talking about a figure 8, the big thing is the figure 8 is present in a lot of the advanced motions too. And the concept is very simple, which is, the concept is we're taking 2 circles, okay? So we're taking 2 circles. Let's say I make a circle here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stand in the wheel plane. So I'm gonna have, basically, there's a circle that's created on this side of my body, and then there's a circle that's created on this side of my body. So basically it's like, if I'm a car, these are the wheels, right? And I'm basically trying to connect the circle from this side of my body over to the circle on the other side of my body. Now, if I was to turn to the other side, you would see that it is a circle. If I was holding a crayon, this would be a circle, right? And every time I'm at 12 o'clock, it's gonna cross over to my other side of my body. So as this is spinning, whenever it's at 12 o'clock here, I'm slashing across to the other side of my body. From this position, if I'm spinning my hand like this, 12 o'clock slashes to the other side of the body. Goes around, 12 o'clock slashes to the other side of the body. What happens is this creates 2 circles. Now, when you're performing in front of a crowd or when you want to showcase this, most of the time it's best to show the whole circle. People like circles. It's very visually easy to see. It covers more ground, more of the chuck shows than if I'm facing here. Then it creates more like a line, as you can see. It looks more like a line going up and down. Covers less ground, less visual. Sideways, more visual. So we definitely want to go with this. The best way that I can describe it is when you first start, kind of let your arm relax, and once it hits 12 o'clock, so if this was the face of a clock, once it hits 12 o'clock, we cross our body to the other side. Once it hits 12 o'clock, we cross our body. And when we cross our body, we're slashing from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Up halfway, 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Up halfway, 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And eventually your hand will swing like this. And if I was to the side, it will swing like this. And as you get better, you're going to use less elbow and put in more wrist. So we're going to tighten it up just a little bit more. And now instead of swinging your elbows into it, our wrist just goes into it like that, which will make the circle a little bit smaller. And then eventually you can pull it all the way to your fingertips, where your fingertips are the only thing that move. And it'll look more like this. So this, I mean, I'm still moving my arm just so the chuck doesn't hit it, but it's a very small motion once we get to this point. And that's kind of how you do a figure 8. And you can do this figure 8 any direction. Like, you can do it from the side, you can practice it in front of you, you can practice it diagonally. Practice all the different ways that you can create this figure 8. Again, we can do it from here to here, from here to here. So the basic figure 8 is just crossing the body like this. But don't forget, just because you can do that figure 8, there's a lot one. I mean, you can practice it, under your arm. So practice, just try to create 2 circles and connect them wherever you want. Over the shoulder, here, through the shoulder. This is this one's a tough one. I can do it with my left, actually. I can't do it with my right. See? So just because you can do a figure 8 doesn't mean that you can't do them from all the other positions. As a matter of fact, it gets a lot harder depending on where you're doing your figure 8s from. So when you get your figure 8, start playing with all the different other areas you can do a figure 8, because there's a lot of places you can figure 8. Probably more than I can count. But first starting out, that would be the basic figure 8. And then for all you advanced people, start playing with other locations on your body, seeing where else you can figure 8. There's a lot. There's a lot. All right. Chris says, would you be able to touch on the horizontal plane? I'm doing great on figure 8s and even wrist rolls, but I'm having trouble with the horizontal planes. The spin drifts diagonals and then into my arm. Okay, I think I know, and a lot of people struggle with the horizontals, and I'll tell you why. It's because muscle memory. Your muscles have been designed. You've practiced so much doing the vertical that the moment you start to work horizontal, it doesn't quite know how to feel that out. So you've got to kind of train your brain. You've got to train your brain to make more of a transition into the horizontal. You've got to build your muscle memory in a way that your mind is going to resist. Your muscle memory is going to try to resist and turn it back into what it's not. So what you want to practice is just see if you can horizontally spin your chucks. You might not be able to. It may just try to twist itself this way the whole time, right? So twist it like this, and you may notice eventually your chucks will spin this way because your muscle memory is trying to pull you into this motion because that's where it's comfortable with. Well, the good news is that's okay, and that's perfectly normal. All you have to do is force yourself back. And when your brain is trying to pull it back, force it back. So one thing that can help if you're starting to lose it, I always say to drift. For instance, if someone's spinning in front of them and their plane starts to drift, up and down, if you move your hand in up and down motions, it will straighten your plane out. Did you see that? So as it starts to go more diagonal, do you see how I'm like twisting it? The way that it's pointed is wrong. I can move my hand up and down and it will pull it back into the right plane, which was this way. We're trying to get it this direction right now. And it's the same thing with horizontal here. You can play with different ways. It's generally going to be like this push-pull kind of thing here. You won't have much room because you'll hit your face, but if it starts to curl over, push-pull it back here. So I'm just basically like shoving it forward and backwards very slightly, and that's going to try to get the plane to readjust back to the horizontal. So you're here, and you eventually just want to get used to holding it like this. The next part, once you get that down, right, is we have to go when we're over, if we're spinning it this direction, which is, if it's over my head, we're looking at it as counterclockwise. The moment it needs to go downwards is, we're going to say when it's about to the outside of my body, and we're going to swing it down to the inside, and then we have to get used to holding the hand upside down in this fashion, like this. So we're moving from this way to this way, right? And it's going to be the same thing. If it starts to want to twist this direction, like if it's wanting to go vertical, push it back and forth until we get it back to horizontal. And you won't have much space because you'll hit yourself. So it's just a very slight wiggle like this. That's kind of a way, that's like a little secret to controlling planes, is a little bit of push, depending on the direction of where it's going, will help you a lot. So you're going from here, the moment it's to the outside of your body, outside, we're going to swing it down like this. We're going to kind of lead our hand to swing it down, and then we're going to lift up, and it's going to spin this way, like this. And it's going to be the exact same thing. As soon as the chuck's getting ready to go on to the opposite side here, we're going to lead our wrist back up to the top like this. So as you can see, my wrist kind of leads the whole time. So if it's here again, wrist is going to lead to the top, and then my wrist is going to kind of lead to the bottom. My hand almost kind of pulls into it. This just kind of creates the space to get it down below. It's not nearly as dramatic as I just made it, but I'm just trying to over-exaggerate it so you can see it. Here, it's almost like you're swinging down, right? Except for you just kind of, you swing down, but then you let your hand tilt. So you like lift up your elbow above your hand. So it's like we're swinging in a chuck, but then we stop and we lift our elbow up, and that will give you the motion. So it's like here, stop, lift your elbow up, and you're in the motion right there. And it'll be the same thing when you're here. See if you can get that elbow to pull down when it's to the outside. So now it's going to pull down and you're back up to here. So practice this transition from here, whoosh, up, then whoosh, that way. Here, here. Eventually you'll be able to get this. It will take some time. And keep in mind that your horizontal can also hit yourself if you keep it too close to your body. So keep it nice and spaced out and try to make one rotation above and below the wrist. You can also accentuate and really like drag the wrists out, or you can keep it nice and tight. That's up to you. There's this way, or there's this way. Both ways work, just whatever you prefer. Most important thing, what makes things difficult sometimes is our own training. Our own muscle memory can actually work against us. So keep that in mind and just slowly practice through it until it stops resisting. All right. Hopefully that helps, Chris. Let me know. Let me see here. I'm just reading. I'm just seeing if there's any questions here. Dennis says, can you do the burn-off flick with just lamp oil, or do I have to mix it with white gas? That's a great question, and I probably should have been more accurate with this. Lamp oil is generally, most of the people in the States, we use white gas. You can use lamp oil, but you'd be shooting lamp oil on the ground, and then to burn it, it's just a lot harder. You have to hold it a lot longer. It's not as theatrical. So if you're using lamp oil, I would suggest you could pull it off, but probably not. It's probably going to be better to use white gas in that particular situation. So my apologies, I probably should have said something about that. Lamp oil, again, burns very slowly. You won't get much of a burn, and you'd have to hold it there for a while. So it wouldn't have quite the same effect. Give me just a second here. All right, Chippy Chippy Chulu, what's up? Good to see you. Do you only use nunchucks, and have you ever failed? So I use a lot of different props. I have nunchucks, swords, double staves, one staff, fire chucks, LED chucks. I built my own H staff, sear wheel. I do martial arts. Those are the main ones. And dragon staff. Those are the main ones that I play with. Have I ever failed? I mean, it depends on your definition of failing. Like, I've had unproductive days. I've had days where nothing went right. Matter of fact, I've had more days where nothing goes right than days that go good, especially the first 5 years of everything that I've done. My life has always been about realizing that failing or not being able to do what I set my mind to do is what I have to pay. It's the price I have to pay in order to get to the point where I can do it. So for me, it's about staying resilient and buckling down and just really observing what I need to understand. So whenever I have days where I fail, when sometimes I waste a lot of time with ideas that don't work. And the best part that comes from that, there's a couple things that I think is really, really important. One is that I'm not mindlessly following anyone but my own intuition. And because I do that, my intuition gets honed from that. I'm able to understand the mechanics of things in a way. Whereas if I was just repeating things without really understanding it, I would only be stuck with no understanding of how things work. So failure, in my opinion, is not being able to understand or take anything from our mistakes. Failure to me is not making the mistake, but not being able to pull anything out from that in order to rise. Because in my opinion, my mistakes have defined me. Like, that's most of the biggest things, my biggest breakthroughs and everything has come from because I made a mistake, and it's like an arrow that showed me where I needed to go. So that's what I think, at least. Do I ever fail? Definitely. Like, for instance, I spent 2 years sometimes working 10 hours on my Flowtricks website. Huge repository of flow knowledge, was going to get all these teachers, but it just didn't work. And the quicker I accepted that it wasn't going to work, the better off I was to be able to work on something that will work, that does work, you know? And sometimes it's good. Sometimes we need that. And while I did spend 2 years of my life on it and it didn't quite pan out the way that it did, I learned how to program, which allowed me to understand newer things better, because now I'm programming projections. Some of you guys know I do projection mapping programming too. And I'm able to make these really awesome visuals because I understand it. Here, I'm going to actually show you guys. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about in case... So while my website didn't quite work out the way that I wanted it to, wait, what? Hold on. While my website didn't quite work out the way that I wanted it to, I was able to do things like this. I was able to program this kind of thing. And this, I programmed that as well as spun the sword. I created all of that. I was able to learn how to map my own body. Like, this is with a projector, so I can do this in person. Someone can watch this. It's not just on a video. This can be done in real life. Again, that's what I mean by transforming failures, is because while my website didn't quite take off and I spent a lot of time learning how to program, I was able to turn it into something that did work for something else way later. I was able to adapt it. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say is even if you don't make it, adapt. Keep adapting, keep working, and you'll find a way to make it fit. All right, Ike Flow. Do you ever get dizzy spinning on the steer wheel? I feel like getting motion sickness every time I watch you. You condition it out. There was a time where I could only go about 4 or 5 rotations on a merry-go-round, no lie, and I would feel nauseous and sick. I used to hate motion sickness. But when I started spinning the steer wheel, I could only do a couple rotations before I'd get dizzy when I first started. And then it was triumphant when I was able to get 10 rotations, and then somewhere down the line in a year, it took me about a year, but I was able to get about a minute of spinning. And now it goes up and down. When I don't do a lot of steer wheel, I have to retrain it. But your brain gets used to everything that you do, which is pretty awesome. The body's ability to adapt is pretty awesome if you really think about it. Because yeah, if you would have asked me when I first started steering wheel if I could last that long, I thought it'd be crazy. I didn't think I could actually pull it off, but at the same time, it's just like everything else. I wanted to see how far I could go with it. So it's a true story. You condition yourself. All right, Chippy, you should buy airport chucks. They are special. Yes, they are. Airport chucks are awesome because you can be anywhere you want and detach them, and you can turn them into poi even. Yeah, airport chucks are cool. Dennis says, I've been spinning my new fire chucks since last week. I love them. Random people on the beach have been in awe, and they're really enjoying the fire. Still uncomfortable with some things. And that's so true, because when you spin fire chucks, you've probably noticed there's a drag that happens even with the fire. Like, it just is a completely different feeling. And the best thing I can say is just treat the fire chucks like it's its own thing. So you have some things you can transition over with regular chucks, but you still have to relearn a lot of your techniques from regular chucks as you transition into fire chucks. For instance, anything with low grip. Yes, you can be able to pull off some low grip moves, but you have to do a lot of modifications to make it work. So if you approach it in that way, then just do a whole lot of fire dancing and you'll eventually just get comfortable with it and figure out how to make those transitions. Now he was talking about bounces and horizontal tricks. Bounces, you should probably never do bounces in the first 30 seconds of your spin, because that's when it's full of fuel and that's when you can transfer the most onto your clothes. But if you wait like a minute to a minute and a half, your bounces should be fine, and they shouldn't do much damage to you, because then most of the excess fuel, if not all of it, should be gone at that particular moment, unless you have huge wicks on your chucks, of course. Also, just keep in mind, you want to bounce it as close to your hand as possible. You don't want to bounce it obviously where the wicks are. But if you're able to just wait a little bit, the bounces are not nearly so bad. You just have to be patient and make sure all that excess fuel wears off. Horizontal is kind of the same thing. Just keep it in motion so it's not held too long over your hand, and you should be fine. But I would wait to do horizontals until after about at least a minute or so again. In the very beginning, you just want speed. You want to get that fire away from your hand, which is great because the audience will love that. But once it dies down a little bit, then you can get a little more creative. Debbie says, can you show how to do an infinite wrist roll? All right, sure. And you asked when this will end. This will probably end in about 20 minutes or so. So an infinite wrist roll, we have two of them. There's two, oops, my bad. Look at my side view camera. There's two kinds of infinite wrist rolls. But the first infinite wrist roll is going to be the back-to-back. And this is the one that we will cover because I feel like this is the easiest to do. And then the second infinite is the front-to-front right here. This one has a little bit more of a hop and a jump. I find many people don't use that one too much. It is nice to do. Like, if Anthony's watching, like when you do doubles, you can do an infinite right there and go back to your 3-beat. So you can do like 3-beat front to fronts, 3 beats. For the most part though, I find back-to-backs used a lot more, this one here. So let's go ahead and cover how this works. Now a back-to-back is the third wrist roll that we generally cover. The first one is a front to back, which means you're in a front grip, goes to a back grip. The second one is you're in a back grip and it goes back to a front grip. If you know those two, if you know the two basic wrist rolls, then you can do figure 8 wrist rolls by just revolving between the two with a figure 8. Now the third one is a back-to-back wrist roll. That means we start in a back grip, we do the roll, and we end in a back grip. The reason why it's an infinite is because if we start in the same grip and we end in the same grip, then we know this grip can go on forever and ever. So how does this work? The way that this works is basically we're going to start in a back grip, and you're going to try to twist the rope over the back of your wrist like this. So again, if you're going to spin the chuck, you're going to be in a back grip already. So if you're not in a back grip, you can start by doing a front to back hand roll. So front to back. So now we're in a front grip, we go to a back grip, we're ready to go. And now what we're going to do is there's two ways you can spin in a back grip. The first way is you spin in front and there's no wrap that's happening. It's happening in front of your body. See? Chuck, there's no way it can wrap. But the moment I take my hand and I twist it back, it can only wrap around the wrist, which is what we want. So if you're here, you can also get to the wrist roll straight from there. Now I'm going to assume that that's just another way to get in, but we're just going to take it from this roll so we can go straight into it. So we're going to go front to back, and the moment you go back, don't let it go in front of you is what I'm trying to say. Instead, push your finger forward like this, and this will allow the wrap to happen. So we go front to back, just kind of put your hand, point your thumb forward, and this will force the rope to go behind you like this. Now what you're aiming for is you're aiming for this to go down your wrist, but what you're really aiming for is for this to go up your hand this direction. Once it rolls up to your hand this direction, you take your fingers, you flick this out of the way, and this one will land in your hand like this. One way you can practice this, you don't even have to move it, is just grab the other side of your chuck. Now here's the thing, if you don't have a lot of rope, you can grab a little bit higher to give a little bit more room for this to work. So if you don't have very long rope, you can make a higher grip just to cover more space to get it, but you will have to make some modifications for that. So here, grab the other side like this, wrap it around the back of your wrist like this, and then just hold this side for a second so you can get used to this. Kind of open your fingers, flick this up, and then imagine that this needs to roll up to the edge of your palm and into, up to the edge of the side of your palm and into your hand like this. So again, it's going to go here, going to wrap around. So we can start with a front to back hand roll. Boom, point your finger forward. It's going to come this way. And then the moment it starts to wrap and move upwards, we're going to flick this out of the way, and this is going to wrap into our hand. And then we can keep doing it. And we wrap it around. See, we just kind of keep it wrapping around like this. I'll give you a side view motion, and we flick it out of the way. So you can do this. You can help yourself by doing this by grabbing the other chuck first and just seeing if you can pull this off. So we're here, flick and grab. This is going to go up. We're going to let it rotate around the top of the wrist. It goes down, and as soon as it starts to go upwards, we flick this out, and it replaces. In fast motion, whoosh. Well, that wasn't fast motion. This is fast motion. But you can get into this move from rips. If you know how to do rips, you're always going from a front grip to a back grip, which is great, meaning anytime you do a rip, a standard rip, you can always rip yourself into an infinite roll because your hand is going from front grip to back grip. So then obviously you can just keep it going, back grip to back grip, and grab, and rip to the other side, back grip to back grip. So you can do infinites by going, if you just know how to do rips, it's going to pull you straight into the possibilities of doing infinite rolls, which is fantastic. Which is pretty fantastic. Give me just a second here. All right, I am going to read off some more messages here. We are getting close to the end. Just want to say again, if you like what you see, boom, we have all different kinds of ways you can share the love and keep this out of work performer busy. All right, I am going to try to figure out where we were here. Okay, so that was the infinite wrist roll. Flow arts tutorials, that looks sweet. Wow, I'm assuming you're talking about the buzz saw. Just to save you searching for it. It is, okay, so Devi says it is Pravilika, the second one, probably. Let me know, were you trying to think of front to front? I'm pretty sure there's some things where it shows your hands are and puts dots behind it and shows where your hand goes. Please do the thing with the hand. Give me just a second here. Are you wondering about, when I had that visual up, I don't have that today, but I can bring it up next time. If you want to see like where I can throw up that 3D plane where you can actually see visuals of how things move and I can draw on the screen. Unfortunately, I don't have that up today, but I can bring that up next Sunday if you still need that. All right. If this is wrong at all, though, Devi, if you could just email me, ken.flowtricks@gmail.com, and let me know what you were looking for. My apologies if I showed the wrong one, but just email me, ken.flowtricks@gmail.com, when I'm not on stream, just so I can take more time to think about what it is that you're looking for. So just go ahead and let me know about that. Otherwise, I will create a visual as well next weekend. If you're thinking about where I have the box around me or I can draw pictures with my hands, I think that could also help. But I can say with the back-to-back, you really can just hold it like this, get it to this position, grab the bottom, and then just switch it out. So wrap it, let go, and then flick this up and grab. And that's kind of, that'll be a very similar motion. All right. Alpha says, I wanted to make sure you have a backup in case Patreon decides to withhold earnings to cover their court costs I didn't realize you had something else in place, so this is good. I wonder what's going on. I have no idea what's going on with Patreon, but I will take a look and see. So, okay, Patreon had a massive lawsuit, huh? Okay. Wow, I will definitely check on that. I did not know anything about that, but I'll start researching that. And if things go bad, maybe I'll post that out soon. Thank you for making me aware of this. I didn't see that. IQFlow says, I quite like the 5-point anti-spin buzzsaw. To me, it feels natural due to the shorter length equals more circles. Provides a bit more time as well, I think. Yeah. I think the anti-spin buzzsaws look fantastic. So, Chris, awesome, thank you. Yeah, most welcome. Alpha, the comment with your Facebook page didn't show on your end for some reason. Was it? It was the Nunchaku Tricks page. Okay, I'll take a look again and see, but I will definitely research if Patreon's going down, because if they are, I definitely don't want to be on a sinking ship. And you're welcome, Dennis. Let's see. Good. Anthony's still watching. Devi, I'm pretty sure there are some things where it shows where your hands are and puts dots and shows where your hand goes. Yeah, well, I can show you that one. Next weekend, we'll get that working together. Just remind me. Anthony says, is it possible to do a reverse illusion rolls, doing a front-to-front wrist roll instead of a back-to-back? Yes, it's going to take some time. I haven't worked on it too hard. I would assume, though, as a reverse illusion roll, actually, I'm going to tell you something. It's probably a lot harder than you think. And the reason for that is because of this. Think of what a back-to-back does that makes the back-to-back so cool. What makes a back-to-back so cool is you have total control of the back of the nunchuck, right? It's very easy to twist like this. When you're front to front, you do have control of this, but as you can see, it requires a lot more dexterity in order to go from here to here because the pinky leads. Now, that's not to say that you can't, pull something off with that, but what makes a reverse illusion roll work is that they're making a simex as they're moving in opposite directions. It's a lot harder to do in a front grip than a back grip. Again, when I usually say like back grips, like being able to do this motion is a lot easier with 2 back grips than with 2 front grips. You can go like this, but you see elbows get in the way, hands get in the way, because here we're basically holding, even though this is a back grip, the back end of the chuck is in our front grip, which is where most of our control comes from. So once we go to back grips, our pinkies have to kind of lead and it pulls our elbows in. So can you do reverse illusion rolls in front to front grips? You probably could. It would probably look a lot sloppier, or you might just have to show me how it could be done, because in my opinion, most of your control, if you want to be able to control the chuck on your side, whatever. So like if I'm gripping a chuck and I need to control the side of the chuck that I'm gripping, a back grip is so much better because I have much more control over that. Being able to even just spin a chuck like this in a back grip is a lot harder. It's a lot harder to be able to get that spin to work. It's a lot more motion because unless your pinky is trained more, you're usually just more used to being able to like control things at the thumb level as opposed to the pinky level. It can be done, I'm sure. It's just going to take a lot of training if you're not already conditioned your pinky and your ring finger to do a lot of the motions that a thumb and a pointer finger would usually do. All right, let's see here. Devi says, please do the, I did that one. Monroe says, can you show us Bruce Lee's signature moves? I haven't practiced. A long time ago, I practiced to his videos, like a Game of Death, you know? As a matter of fact, look at this. But it's been a minute, and I haven't really practiced too much. He's generally doing over-the-shoulder passes, clutches, figure eights, things of that nature. Things that we would consider to be, I don't want to say basic, but a much more simpler, more combat-oriented style. I'm sure if I watched it again, I could get back into it. I just haven't done combat-style chucks in a while. IQ Flow, my front-to-front and back-to-backs are across my thumb. Is it different? Or just what happens when you do things faster? I see what you're saying. It's possible to do it over, well, I'm doing a thumb roll now. It's possible it can creep over that direction for sure. For instance, here's the thing, like if I hold it up higher, it's gonna go over my thumb like this, right? So we're thinking, it's interesting because there was it's not like I'm huge into terminology, but there was this big thing a couple of years ago where people were like, it's a wrist roll, it's a hand roll. And it's interesting because it's like if it goes over your hand, it's a hand roll. If it goes over your wrist, it's a wrist roll. I just consider them all the same. I consider it all the same. You're basically letting it roll across either the hand or the wrist, but it's kind of a similar concept. I generally like to go over the wrist myself. Maybe I'm just old school, but you can definitely take it up towards the hand and let it go over the thumb too. It's loose. It's versatile that way. Basically, the technique or the concept will still be the same, but you can definitely pull it off. So when you see me do it, I am pulling it over the wrist. It is going over the wrist like that, but you can definitely also just pull it over the hand like that. Or you can even, it also helps for a thumb roll, I guess, too. But this one's over the hand, this one's over the wrist. To the audience, to most people, you probably couldn't even see the difference. So I feel like training the differences, like if you can do one or not the other. It's up to you if you want to do that. I say just do whatever you feel most comfortable with. Okay, next Sunday. Okay, Debbie, next Sunday. Please remind me, by the way, just because I tend to forget. I'm like a mad scientist. I forget a bit. Wide Awake says, please, could you show how to do the 3-beat weave that passes over the back of your head to the other side before you go? So I think what you're talking about is, I think what you're talking about is where we're doing a 3-beat weave. Are you talking about where I'm doing a 3-beat weave and then I'm like pulling it over the top of my head? Where it passes over the back of your head. So this is a 3-beat weave. Are you talking about like where I'm doing this motion where it goes over the head, to the right, to the left, over the head, to the right, to the left? That's actually 3 different techniques if that's what you're looking for. There's the 3-beat weave that's here. For this particular one, I'm not going to go over the reverse or the front 3-beat, but if this is the one that you're talking about, you have to know the 3-beat weave on this side. And then as soon as you cross over to the front, you have to be able to do the reverse 3-beat weave on this side. So this is the exact opposite 3-beat as this one. We have to be able to do both in order to transition from back to forth. And then what we have is like a reverse 3-beat that's over our head up here, but it's not quite a 3-beat. What we're learning over here is a what do they call that? IQ Flow probably knows. Is this a windmill? I can't remember. But I'll show you the easiest way to do it is you're going to hold both chucks over your face like this, right? And what you have to do is you have to be able to spin the chuck over to the back of your head. So actually put down your left one for a second and just work on this. Chuck's over the face, thumb is facing down, it's in front. You're going to spin it in a circle to get it behind your shoulder like this. Now you notice I'm whirling it like that. I just want to see here. Okay, I can do both 3-beats from side to side. Perfect. Okay, this is what you need to learn then. You're going from the reverse 3-beat, and as you pull to the front, we're going to go over to this over the head. It's not necessarily 3-beat, it's probably more like a 2-beat, but we need to be able to get this order to work. So hand in front of the face like this, we're going to pull it behind the back of the head like this, right? And then what we're going to do from here is we're going to basically do the same thing, except we're going to try to pull a circle. So we're trying to make a circle. You remember how we're talking about the figure 8? There's a circle here and a circle here. This is just another example of a figure 8. There's a circle behind us, and there's a circle in front of us, and we need to transition between the two. So we're going to pull it to the back, and then we're going to pull it to the front. Back, front. And first see if you can do it with one hand like this, right? Now it's going to be harder with the left hand, so get used to this because the first motion, because when we first started, our hands are going to be like this. When you first do the left hand, you're going to have to kind of wing it up and around like that, which is a very awkward motion because we're kind of flicking it this way. It's almost like it's flicking this way and over. You see that we're making a circle this direction. It's going to be here to over. So it's going to be here to over, and once it goes to the back, we're going to try to pull it. We're going to finish the circle and pull it back to the front. So basically we're creating the circle. It's going behind the head and in front. So you should be able to do this motion. Now, if you notice, my hand is moving back and forth. This is so I don't hit my face. So you'll notice that my hand moves back and forth. This is to avoid my face. So you want to practice making a circle here. Once it's at 6 o'clock here, we're going to try to pull it all the way over behind the back of our head. And we're going to let it do, again, one rotation till it's about 6 o'clock, and then we're going to pull it back to the front. Once you get the hang of that, then to get the timing, you do this. Hold it in front of your face like this. Once you got both of them, you go right hand first, get it behind you, left hand second, get it behind you, then right hand first, get it back to the front. Now the left hand's going to have to swing over and around. Do you see that? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to look floppy until we can actually do it. The motion, though, you're going for is this. And the motion you're going for with this is this. Once you get it, then you go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See how that works? 1, 2, 3, 4. First, just do it one at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then start speeding it up until eventually you got that 1, 2, 3, 4. And then eventually you can just get this to work. The most important thing is that we have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to offset it. We just want to make sure we're not going like this, because your tendency when you first start is to not want to chase it, but to move them parallel. They're not split time, so you go, make sure that you have this chasing method happening. Chase, 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 chase. It's almost like 1 and 2 and. And then eventually you'll just get that. To get to it is when you're doing the reverse figure 8 and you're behind your body like this, right? We're going to try to cover this ground as our hands unwind. So you know how like our hands cross and uncross to make a figure 8. So cross, uncross, cross, uncross, cross, uncross. Hands are always crossing and uncrossing to create figure 8s. They're always crossing and uncrossing. When the chucks are behind my body and I'm moving it to the front, instead of crossing and uncrossing in here, I'm just crossing and uncrossing. I'm using this time as I'm uncrossing to get it up to my head. So it's here, and then as you can see, I'm pulling my hands up to set myself up for this motion. That's how you get it into it, and it'll be the same thing as you're getting out of it. As it weaves behind the back of your head and you're moving forward, you're going to try to cross behind the back into the figure 8 over to the left. So it's here, whoosh, and over. And then the end goal is to have the reverse. Again, once we're in the back, we're going to pull the cross over to the top of the head. So make sure you can do this motion first. I'm just showing you how to connect them. And then as it spins to the back, we're going to kind of slash it back into the figure 8, or the 3-beat weave. It's not an easy combo, and I just showed you the whole thing. I just gave you the whole pizza when you needed a slice. But work one hand, work two, work them individually, and then get it to slow flow, and then get to a fast flow, and then get all the transitions to work, and you'll have that, boom. Oh my gosh, all right. So we, hopefully that helps, let me know. Leonardo, since when do you practice nunchucks? I started practicing flow, the artistic version of chucks, probably about, well, it's been over 10 years. I think it's been about 12 years now, 12 years ago or so. I also did martial arts as a kid and a teenager, and I studied nunchucks, a combat form of chucks, back in the old days, way back in the day. So, I mean, literally, it's probably been like 15 years of training total-ish, 3 years of martial arts-ish. I did 10 years of martial arts. I'm just not counting all of that as nunchuck training, so we'll say 3. Hey, Maddie, 777. All right, Aikiflow, the length will make a difference between wrist versus hand and thumb. Absolutely, it will. It definitely will, especially if you have shorter chucks, they'll go over the hand more. Longer rope will tend to go around the wrist more to cover more distance. You'll notice that you'll kind of compensate for that as you find it. All right, Leonardo, which DNMT is your favorite one? I think this one's pretty easy. It's always been Michelangelo. I guess from an attitude perspective or from a personality outside of the weapon, of course nunchucks are the best, I probably like Leonardo. Or I don't know, Raphael's pretty sweet too though. I like what a hothead he is. But Leonardo, I just like the fact, like he just takes on all the burden. He's cool. I like him. All right. Aikiflow. I knew he would know this one. Split time, same direction over the head as windmill. Basically a 2-beat figure 8. Boom. That's exactly it. Thank you, Aikiflow. You know, it's like sometimes I know what needs to be done, but I don't always sit around on the terminology. So it's nice to have someone that understands all the terminology. Hey, Ray, what's up? He's late to the party. Yeah, man, it's like you're late to the party and you came just as soon as the police were about to shut it off because the music was too loud. But yeah, I'm just about to put away. We covered anti-spins and all kinds of interesting questions today. We actually covered some of the stuff we worked on Pro Tricks, though, a couple days ago, which is pretty interesting. Aikiflow, same time equals parallel shoulder reel, split time equals the Mexican wave, same time op equals butterfly. which same time op is same time opposite, which is they're moving the same time and they're connected together. Those are the other modes for the windmill. No, that's awesome. Again, thanks, IQFlow. That's really good knowledge to know. There's so many variations we can go with this. I think martial artists, there's something about the martial arts and something about the flow arts that I wish would blend together more seamlessly, because flow artists have a lot of great things to offer. Martial artists have a lot of great things to offer too. And I feel like if these two forces were to combine together more, it would be an incredible explosion. I mean, I have my part that I offer, but I don't understand I know flow arts fairly decently, and I know martial arts fairly decently on both sides, but unfortunately I'm just kind of a weird thinker, so I'm not going to be the guy that blends them together to the point where there is that combination that like seamlessly makes the flow arts and the martial arts together. I'm going to be that guy that comes up with my own style from it. All right, let's see here. Wide Awake says, superb explanation. Cheers, Ken. It'll keep me busy for a while. Yes. Send me a video too if you want. Send me a video of what you're working on. ken.flowtricks@gmail.com if you need any help with it next time. We can take a look at your progress and see what's going on. Monroe says, is there such thing as fire chucks where you do moves with the ends of the chucks on fire? There's some moves you can do with fire chucks with the ends of the chuck on fire, but your amount of time that you have to hold them is so small that I would consider it only if you are very, very well versed with fire. That's all I can say about that. Matter of fact, there's certain grips you can work on. Like a lot of people with fire chucks, you have to anticipate someday you may grab the fire. So there's certain techniques you can use where you are grabbing the fire and you're able to pull a throw off before you burn your hand. Thing is, you don't have that much time to do it. And it's not something I want to get into in this particular session, but you can grab the fire and still pull off a very quick technique, but it's almost always to escape from grabbing the fire, because you may have a second or two before you start burning your hand. So, when your hand's in the middle of the fire, you just want to get rid of it. You want to get your hand out of there as quickly as possible. So if you train yourself to have a reaction where you're able to do a technique, people won't notice. You'll be able to escape it without losing your grip and without losing your chucks. It's a very good habit with fire chucks, to be able to anticipate all the different ways things could go wrong and have an escape that makes it right, that makes it okay. Otherwise, you'll panic or drop your chucks or even start yourself on fire. So it's very important to have these escape methods, is what I call them. Nocturnal says, do you do anything for warm-ups? I have intermittent shoulder tensions and chuck seems like good therapy, but also make it worse temporarily. When I was younger, I stretched a lot. I did a lot of warm-ups. Now that I'm older, I don't work as hard as I used to. So I guess my warm-up is actually just my training. I don't go as hard as I used to. So I think that's a huge thing, which is when I do my training, I don't jump in and go full force. In the old days I did, and I've injured myself plenty of times from that. And I used to train so much that I would get repetitive injuries that would last a long time for them to heal. But nowadays, I just pace it. I just pace it a little bit more. I think you can get away without doing warm-up exercises. And sometimes I think the warm-up is the flow, as long as you don't go too hard or too fast. I think it's the moment you leave your comfort zone, the moment you go really hard or really fast, that's the moment you can open yourself to injury if you're not warmed up. So I would say at least think of it like a mountain, and even if you're training, whatever you're training on, just build it up slowly in terms of intensity, and you'll be fine by the time you get to the high intense part, as long as you've built it up that way. I think the worst thing you can do for training is to start off with something you're not ready for. And that's with performing too. You never want to go above your abilities when you perform, but when you're training, you're supposed to go above your abilities, but warm up to it first. And whatever that warm up means to you, that could just be flowing slowly, then going to a medium flow, and then eventually going to a fast flow, and then going to burnout flow. Like it goes in phases. And if you train it that way, I feel like your opportunities for injury as well as everything else are greatly lessened. I would suggest stretches. I think stretches are fantastic. I've got quite a few YouTube videos on good stretches you can do. I used to think I used to do it before I would even train, but now I don't do it so much, but I can say that it's just because I don't train as much as I used to. So that's really what it is. In the old days, I would train hours and hours a day, and now I maintain because I'm working on other things as well. And I share, yeah. And I don't go too hard. Even when I'm working on new stuff, I just don't go too hard. All right. Aikiflow completely agrees with martial arts and flow arts. I knew he would. Leonardo, have you already played Ghost of Tsushima? You bet I sure did. I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima. I beat Last of Us 2 not too long ago. And also, on the side note, I've started Magic the Gathering with my son, and we're having fun playing cards. So definitely getting the gaming in onto the side of, you know, when I want to relax. Do you like the Kusarigama? I haven't played around with the Kusarigama enough to be able to showcase it or to train with it, unfortunately. Leonardo, can I send you a video of me practicing nunchucks? Absolutely. Send it to me. We'll look it over next Sunday is when we can talk about it, though, just because I'm just about to sign out. My email address is ken.flowtricks@gmail.com, ken.flowtricks@gmail.com. I'm going to probably just put my email address below. That way everyone knows. Please feel free. Feel free to send me whatever videos you all want me to look at, and then next Sunday we'll cover it. Leonardo says I have a 10-year-old. That's awesome. Oh, I have 10 years old. Leonardo, are you talking about like you have a 10-year-old kid when I was talking about Magic? How I play with him? Or are you talking about like you've trained for 10 years? I'm just curious. Wide awake, I'll see how I get this week. Any issues, I'll definitely send a video. Much appreciated. Oh no, it's my pleasure, really. Like I said, like here we are in COVID, and the more I can help, the better. Ooh, I want to show you guys something though. I have been practicing some performances, well, for an online showcase, and I made a video, and I wanted to show you this cool little fire thing that I did. Give me a second. It's only 20 seconds long, so check this out. Yes, this is it. Rah, 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 rah. All right, you guys, that is my Instagram. My Instagram is KenHillFire, KenHillFire. Find me on Instagram, follow me. I'm always working on interesting things. You can see some of my experiments and tests. That was a fire sword. I'm a part of this online video thing happening on Friday. It's gonna be pretty awesome. There's gonna be a lot of belly dance. They needed something fiery to balance it out. I generally become the guy that balances out like we're performing, I generally become the guy that balances out the feminine qualities of a performance. So if they have too many female performers, they're like, we need something badass. So that's usually what I get called. So just to bring out a lot of fire and just explosions and everything. So that's good. I like actually being in this niche. I have no problems at all being in the niche of badass fire ninja. I think it's great. It makes me happy. Okay, a couple more and then I'm gonna get going. Monroe says, do you practice with a 3-section whip? I do not. I probably could. I just, as you can see, I've been working on this fire thing lately, but I know that there's a Kusarigama I could be working on. I've heard of a 3-section staff as well. That sounds pretty awesome. Who knows what I'll pick up next time? Who knows what I'll pick up next time? I think it's fun to explore all the props. Leonardo, slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. Leonardo, I am a kid. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you're saying that you are 10 years old, right? Am I right? I hope I'm right. Either way, Ghost of Tsushima is awesome. I'm having a fun with it. I hope you guys are all having fun with whatever you're doing too. Matter of fact, I might play a game or two before for the end of the night. So, with that said, I hope you guys are all doing well. I am gonna go check on Patreon and see what's going on with them being sued. But I'm gonna go ahead and take a look and see what's going on with all that. But if you guys have any questions at all, ken.flowtricks@gmail.com. It's great seeing everyone again. I love talking with y'all. I think it's great. So hit me up if you need anything. Again, ken.flowtricks@gmail.com. Otherwise, I'll see you all next Sunday. All right. Take care.